Supriyo, a warm welcome to you, to Nyaya, for this conversation. And we really look forward to speaking with you to really get your perspective on the same-sex marriage case and also your perspectives on law in general.
Thank you so much, Kana, for inviting me today, especially it's 14th of February and we are talking about love and law. But yes, looking forward for an amazing conversation.
So, a very important case, Supriyo, and it was not the kind of verdict that the community felt that they wanted or expected from the court. I will ask you the first question, which I'm sure you've probably answered many, many times when people have asked you. How did it feel when the verdict came out? Um, Disappointment, I'm assuming, must have been top of mind, but if you can tell us really, what did it mean to you when you found out that the Supreme Court had ruled the way it did?
Well, I think I already got the word from you, which is disappointed. We were extremely disappointed because, filing a petition, again, from a non-law background and going to the Supreme Court, um, this is not just a case, this is our life that we are putting it forward, right? And if you saw the way the hearing was happening and the way the media trial happened, we were extremely hopeful, honestly. It was all over the news. It was everybody was talking. The whole world was talking about it, and it's going to be the first largest democracy, etc., etc. We are extremely hopeful, honestly. But the day of judgment, I still remember the day we were standing at the court, and as a person, in a very layman who doesn't have a law background, it's very difficult to understand those language when the judgment was being read in front of us. And but that the tone was something which is key. Okay, I think we are getting this. I think this thing is happening. And there was a moment we just realized that key, oh, they just empathize and we didn't get anything. We are leaving the courtroom empty-handed. That was the moment. Extreme disappointment, anger, uh, hopelessness for some time. But on the other hand, Kanav, I keep answering this to the world that we did not lose entirely because we had nothing to lose. What we gained, that's the silver lining. What we gained, which is a conversation. See, right now we are sitting here and we are talking about it. We gained the dinner table conversation. We gained, I think, the confidence in people, uh, the language in the newspaper, in the living room, that people are aware what we mean when we say LGBTQIA plus. I think that's the part. And for me, my perspective, we also grow as a human, right? The process of going through the litigation, going to the court, living in this country as a gay man, growing up in this country as a queer kid. So we also learned in different phases. The first phase is always we want everything together. And then slowly we learned that it will not happen that overnight we'll get everything together. It's not just a mere battle, it's a war, it's a movement, and movement takes time. I think in the basis of the Supriyo judgment, there are a lot of other things also happening right now. Maybe eventually we'll talk in this conversation. But so it's like a disappointment. It's a moment we are very, very sad, and then okay, we are hopeful. There is a better tomorrow.
Yes, thank you for highlighting the importance of looking at the silver lining. And yes, it's so important. I also think that the fact that this conversation started happening in the public domain, and even though there was a lot of trolling and a lot of negativity that was spread, what was extremely important was that we were able to have that dialogue and that we are having this dialogue even now, years
Right.
after the judgment has come out. There is something very interesting, Supriyo, that you mentioned, which was about the unease perhaps with the way the with the tone when the judgment was come out, and not really knowing for sure what exactly was being said. We hear this very often when we talk about the law, especially court judgments in India, in which we hear about how court judgments are often written in archaic language, how court judgments are oftentimes very long, and oftentimes the main point of the judgment is very, very hard to discern. And in this judgment in particular, because you had five judges, well, three judges ruled a certain way, two judges ruled a certain way. And interestingly, there was one judge who did rule a different way when it came to the Special Marriage Act. So when you have diversity of voices, it becomes very hard for people, the very communities who are trying to really make sense of these decisions. It's very hard for them to understand what has really come out of this for me. What is the impact that it has had on me? And that's so important, I think, that you highlighted. I want us to now move away from the outcome of the judgment to the part before that, because this was a complicated process in which various petitions were filed before various high courts, and then the Supreme Court really clubbed it together and decided to hold it as kind of one collective case. If you could tell us, you came at this not as a lawyer, but as somebody who worked in the hospitality space, who works in the hospitality space. And you were fighting for your right to equality and dignity. And yet this you were in a sense drawn into this legal dispute or legal case that represents not just your interests, but the interests of millions, I would argue, or thousands of other people like you. So if you could tell us a bit about the ways in which you engage with the legal system and what challenges perhaps that you faced as a non-lawyer engaging with this from the beginning, right to
Mhm.
the end.
Well, Kanav, it's not a one-day decision, of course. This is big, it's larger than me. Um, so if you are aware that 2021, we got married, me and Abhay, which again, the legally we cannot say marriage, but yes. So it was a very selfish motive, you know. So we are in a relationship. It's been right now, it's been almost 14 plus years, and the COVID happened for different reasons that we said, ki, hey, you know, it's been long. Our people are aware about us. Our family accepted us. Let's get married. um, so that's how it started, you know. That's the first rebel act ki, hey, you know, I know we are scared, we know that the society might accept, might not, but it's our life, it's our love, and I think we should celebrate it. So that's how it's all started, you know. And we got married in 2021 in December, and the first thing that I realized after our marriage that the whole world tagged us as a commitment ceremony. People were so scared to call this as a marriage. That is, I guess, my first realization that this is not right, you know, and I don't deserve this. I felt like a second-class citizen living in this country. It's a democratic country, and people believe in democracy here. And we are paying taxes. We are not hurting anybody. We are not taking away anybody's rights, but still feeling like second-class citizen. We felt we need to do something. So now there is two way to handle things. One could be, you know, just let it go. We will live our life or live the country. We will live in our bubble. But maybe me and Abhay, we brought up in such a way, and the upbringing, we thought, you know, I think it's one life that we got, and we are privileged. We are privileged because our family is supporting. We are privileged that we are living in a bubble where people are very supportive. If we don't fight, who will, right? So, because the path that we are walking, it's paved by our seniors, the previous generations, and I think this is our responsibility too. So I actually had a conversation with Abhay, and Abhay told me a beautiful thing. He said, Supriyo, when we will be on our deathbed and we will look back to our life, we will be very proud that we did our part. I think that is the guiding light. And then, fortunately, we had a few friends. They practice law, and we had a regular conversations before our marriage, in fact, with Arundhati and Menika, and suddenly we had a discussion that, you know, we got married, but still I can't call Abhay as my husband, and vice versa. We still don't have those bundle of rights that all the heterosexual people, married people, take it for granted. And so, what we can do, right? We need to fight. See, winning is secondary, it's not in our control, but at least we're living in a country where we can go to the court and ask for our rights. Let's do it. So that's how the whole thing started. And when the filing and the writing, and it's a very, you must have understand, for being a non-law background, it was scary because you are putting your entire life to in a public forum. You just know, and it's not just your life, your people who are surrounded with you, your parents, your family, um, everything out to the public domain. You are so there is no privacy, right? I mean, your life going to be discussed in the newsroom. Your life needs to be, everybody will have an opinion to talk about your life. And it's scary. It's because we are simple people, we are very ordinary people who wake up, go to the work, come back home, have dinner, watch TV, and then go to sleep. That's how the life is, or used to be. We both were scared. The first thing that we had to do, we need to talk to our parents because they belong to a different generation, though they are very supportive. But I always say that being a queer person living in this country, we always knew that we have to fight, we have to do a lot of things. But I really salute to our parents that they had to come out suddenly to the world, to their peer group as a parent of a gay child. And it is difficult. It has not been easy for them, for any parent in this country, the culture that we live. So yes, that's how it started. And then sitting with other lawyers, talking a lot, all the stories. But I think we have been very lucky, uh, because they are not just lawyers, they are our friends. They understand our struggle. So they treated us like a friend. And that's how this whole thing started. Yes.
So Priya, so there are so many important points that you've highlighted here. Um, I'll like to come to those. We have a
Hmm.
question though from an audience member, which I think
Hmm.
we can, if you're okay, we could perhaps take it because it closely
Sure.
relates to what you've asked.
Hmm.
So I had also alluded to the fact that this issue allowed Indians to talk openly about this matter once the hearings were live streamed, and you've spoken about the ways in which your own parents your and Avai's parents now became public citizens in a sense because they were children of gay or they were parents of gay children. So Prateek has asked a question. Do you think media trials affected your lives? Um, I would like to perhaps also add to this question to ask you. There was a lot of backlash that came from the conversations that were happening in the courts. There was a lot of trolling
Hmm.
and there were also some unfortunate comments that were made by certain senior legal professionals about how same-sex marriage would, damage society and whatnot. And so, as a queer person myself, I personally was quite affected negatively by it. But I can't imagine, and I always wondered what was it like for those who were in the courtroom who were part of the community as well. So, if you could speak a little bit about that, because that is unfortunately a part of lawyering, and it's a part of the legal system, not just with queer communities. You see this with um women who are rape survivors who are character assassinated. You see this with women who are seeking, say, reproductive care, who are also character assassinated when their matters become public. And of course you see this in other high profile cases as well. Right at the top of mind, I can think of the witch hunt against Riya Chakraborty when Sushant Singh Rajput died.
Right.
So we see this in the media as well. And of course, part the trolling also does not just affect those on the side of the petitioners and respondents. Sometimes judges also get trolled, and that also happened. The former
Yes.
chief justice has
Right.
spoken about this in various interviews since retiring. So yes, Supriyo, if you could talk to us about the media backlash and the media trial that really started once the hearings started to make its way through the media landscape. What was that
Mhm.
like, and how did you navigate that?
As I said in the previous answer, that we are the ordinary common people and we are not trained to handle this kind of things. As per my opinion, as if I give my example here. And media, when I talk about media, I'm talking about social, I'm including internet and social media as well. They always follow you, right? Wherever, whatever you do, wherever you go, you cannot ignore them all the time. Of course, you can ignore maybe a live telecast or maybe a live debate. Okay, I don't want to be a part of it. But again, that is also a challenge. Once you are a representative and once you are a face, you cannot just ignore anything. You just have to, they wanted to know your opinion. And but in that case also, there is a positive and negative, as kind of you said. Media always been very supportive, but yes, there is a lot of trolling. There is few media houses who are not being as supportive as others. um, but yes, it takes away your peace. It takes away your your day-to-day life, and you are always very conscious that what you're talking. I still remember there's a beautiful thing that I have learned, and I will take his name. You remember when the court cases started and the government said it's a urban elitist concept, and society will never understand. So there's all this, the whole news were coming around those things, and I was extremely upset because every day morning I'm going to the court and meeting all these things. It's a very tiring journey, sitting in a AC room and talking, and actually you are getting up in the morning. By the time I'm reaching the court, I'm getting hundred of phone calls from different medias. Okay, we just need one bite. I really don't know what to talk because I am still processing the whole thing, and it is so fast, everything is happening in front of your eyes, and you really don't know what is happening. You really can't process the whole thing. So I remember when this thing happened and I came out and I was very upset. I don't know, because first couple of days were very, it was feeling that the government is extremely strongly opposing and so forth. And I was very upset. I was in my tears, and I was like, this is not right. I'm not urban. I'm from a small town. I know what it is. It's not the right representation. So one senior lawyer, he told me that, Shupriyo, think these things will happen. This is new for you, but you cannot just go out and cry in front of people because there are a lot of people looking up to you. You are a representative now, and an entire community is looking. So there is a pressure, the pressure that you have to be strong, the pressure that you cannot just say something random. So if you talk about media trial, yes, it does take away your peace. It does. You have become hyper conscious what you are talking in front of the people, because that that information will reach millions of people. So yes, yes. Of course, now I think I'm more comfortable talking, but I wasn't. I mean, as I said, we all grow with a time, and it was difficult. It was difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine what it would be like to be to kind of have these phone calls coming in from the media. Not not nowhere in comparison to what you've gone through, but I remember when I was in 2023, when I was writing about these issues for Vidhi, I received a lot of calls from journalists. Same thing, they were asking for a bite, or they were asking for a summary of the judgment, because at that time, a lot of the journalists were also trying to understand what the judgment said. Perhaps one thing that I found a little problematic about the media was how, when it came to this matter, they really wanted to get attention because for them it was a way to put eyeballs on this issue. But the moment that story became less relevant, they just moved on. And so I haven't really heard from any of these journalists since then. And, I think that's a larger conversation about, why is it that these issues are no longer being discussed when it was so relevant and so
Yes,
important?
I just wanted to add little more here. Thank you so much for saying this. Um, that's the thing, the pressure the journalist they creates on the person, because they just look it as a litigation, a case, a target, a timeline. They somehow miss the emotion. They somehow miss the person behind it. They somehow. So I always used to feel like somebody will call and ask, "Hey, how you are dealing with it?" rather than what is your opinion about it. So here is the difference. And And that is very inhuman sometimes. And as you clearly said, that those people vanish after some time. And another major problem, Kanav, that I realized in my journey for activism, the fact check. There's so much in rush. Again, no, not everybody, but there are few cases. There are so much in rush. They're not doing a proper fact check. They are just publishing something, just doing on their walking on their story, not getting it checked, not even getting permission, and things are just happening. And you cannot. I mean, sometimes I just Google and I was like, oh, I never seen this news. Who covered it? I never spoke to them. So this thing happens, but that's how it is. You cannot just. So I just read things. I never read the comments because uh, that is difficult. Reading comments, you know how things happens in the trolling and stuff. But I just check the fact if things are correct. I don't interfere much. I was like, okay, until unless the news is reaching to more people, I am happy because that's the reason we are here. People creating awareness. So not much complaint, but I think there are few areas the emotional part, I guess, the journalist needs to be a little more sensitive.
Absolutely. This is a good segue. We've spoken about the media and what journalists can do better. I think it's a very good segue to also talk about the legal system. You spoke about some of those challenges when you were going to court on a regular basis. Supriyo, my question to you is, since you've interacted with the legal system, you're not a lawyer, but I would argue that you have probably more experience than some law students who are, eager to get their legal internship, or even for that matter, non-lawyers who want to learn more about the law. So you had that inner experience. What do you think the legal system can do to improve itself, to make itself more inclusive, more diverse, perhaps, or maybe just more hospitable? No pun intended when I use that word, but more hospitable for people who are not lawyers but who are trying to get their rights recognized by the judges.
Well, the legal system or this thing, what I if I put it in one sentence, it's what I felt as per my understanding, the sensitization that is legal, which is not very lived. It's very theoretical. And the problem with the non-legal background people, we don't understand that theory. We are emotional. We want them to see us, but they wanted to see the world, the theory part. So I think that is the major challenge. Most of the cases, we don't even understand what is happening. Another major problem that I realized, which is most of the case, we don't know what to ask to our, the legal support. It could be our lawyers or the paralegal team. I think the paralegal team or the legal team needs to see the person, not just the language. I think we need to have some way to explain the lived examples rather than this article, that article. We didn't study this, and when somebody is going to a court with their things, it's the person is emotional. They're hopeful. They have so many thousands of things going in their mind, and those typical language we don't understand. I think that is another thing that we need to work on, and I think also setting the right expectation is something which is very important. What can be done, what can't happen. I think that we can be a little more clear when we are talking to somebody who came for help. Uh, that is another thing that I wanted to focus. Somehow I feel the language is extremely heteronormative. So there is the binary gender identities, or maybe a very heterosexual family structure, or so these are the things, maybe though we cannot just control right away, but those are my observation that I felt, as in, again, as I said, it's they are not going beyond, and which of course create a barrier for the people who are not from the legal background. Um, of course, there is a lack of understanding of queer trauma. They always wanted to put things into a format, but I think we all need to understand the people comes from different background, different trauma, um, different walks of life. So somehow I feel the emotion is something which is we are not at all looking into. And I don't know. I think the empathy is more required than the tokenism, I guess. Putting so much of detail and informations which maybe we're not able to understand much. But I think the empathy is the word. I think we need to empathize a little more.
Yeah, Supriyo, I think what I'm picking up is that there's so many qualitative aspects of a court case that sometimes lawyers tend to forget, because part of the training is also very, very logic based, very, very
Mm,
rigid, very doctrinal. And it's sometimes very unfortunate when the lived realities and the personal experiences of litigants is collapsed into this provision of the law, this precedent, and whether or not the court had said this 5 years ago or not. And that richness, I feel, oftentimes gets diluted. And I'm so glad that you brought that out, because it's important for legal professionals to understand that when they deal with their clients, that they're dealing with whole human beings whose life experiences are so varied that simply putting it into this category or that category does not do justice to their own lived experience. So I'm very grateful that you brought that up, and also bringing up the importance of setting expectations right, because partly I think there was that concern also, where the community felt that this was a given to us, that we would get
mm,
the right to marry because the bench composition was the way it was. But and clearly that did not really happen. um, this might be a good segue into some of the last few questions that I have for you. You spoke very rightly about the challenges that you faced while, navigating this legal system, and of course, the very rigid nature of the law and how archaic it is. So at Nyaya, we have on we are running a fellowship. We're running multiple fellowship programs in multiple states in India, and we always endeavor to make the law more accessible to people who are not lawyers. And we do that by providing hand-holding help to
mhm.
our constituents, many of whom come from working class backgrounds, many of whom are women and children who are fighting civil and criminal cases. And we do so with the help of our team of lawyers, grassroots lawyers who are trained in the district courts and who practice in these district courts. So, since you've interacted with legal professionals, what advice would you have to a lawyer, maybe a young lawyer who's starting their career, or maybe a lawyer who doesn't have much experience, on how to effectively work with people who are not lawyers, who are from
Mhm.
vulnerable, marginalized communities? How can they effectively work with their clients to make sure that the process of accessing justice is not a bureaucratic, heartless process, but instead one where there is collaboration, where there's empathy and there's communication?
Right. A beautiful question. I actually work with a lot of young lawyers because I strongly believe. So there are three segments that I prefer to work with. One is the young lawyers, the second one is the young journalists, and the third one, the whole students, because I'm into teaching. It's been as you give the introduction, because they are the nation builders. They are the next generation, and they will going to pave the path. So I keep telling this to everybody that of course we need the legal brilliance, we need that, you have to study, but I think we also learn simultaneously the little gentle language, because everybody will not understand uh, that language, because if somebody is not from the similar background. I think the another thing what I realized during my journey, I think we need to reduce the pressure of being strong. It's okay. I think this is something nobody will speak loud, but I have seen, you are just on that pedestal that everybody's like, okay, we are with you, go. But we are exhausted. I wanted to sit down and cry. I wanted to go away from everything for maybe 7 days, and I don't want to meet anybody. That continuous pressure by everybody. It's like the legal team, the media, the friends, families, everything. It was very, very exhausting. I think the another thing what I realized that, as I said, like we are the privileged people. We have the access. We can reach out to people, but there are so many people from different background, different walks of life. They don't have the access. They're scared of it. So somehow I feel there have to be something where people should not feel scared, and or maybe if there is the fear, we need to normalize it. It's okay to be scared. It's okay. The access needs to be, we need to work on this, and I keep telling this to the new generation lawyers. And one very important thing that I wanted to add here, that you are in the system. You can change the world. Call out for things. Take that pledge key, okay, because what I cannot do, you can do, right? As a young lawyer, and you have an amazing career eventually. um, I think you have more responsibility. So I think these are the things that I would like to tell the upcoming lawyers or the legal team, um, and the way they can help the community. Yes.
That's lovely, and I hope that people take notes because I think these are very important points for all these young professionals. But do you also see the shift in other sectors? You know, you work in the hospitality sector. Maybe there are other sectors that you are engaged with.
Yes, I will not complain much here, because as in initial stage of our conversation today, we already talk about it a little bit, that it's more of like it's not just a small battle, it's a movement, and movement takes time. Uh, when if I go a little back and just think about the judgment, the Delhi High Court judgment, I think 2009, Nas Foundation judgment,
Yes.
9 or 10, 9, I guess. So
Yeah.
that time I was in college, and the first time coming out to the world, and it was a huge celebration. I don't know, kind of, you experienced that time or not, but being an old man, I can say that. And I have seen the Kaushal judgment again in 2013. Just imagine, I already met Abhay. We started living together. That time we were living in a rented apartment, and the we already came out to the people that, hey, we are happy. And suddenly, one fine morning, you get this judgment, and you just criminal being just living your life in this country, and it was not we are not okay with it. I'm so sorry to say that, and that was one of the pathetic thing happened to us on that day. And since then, the Navtej and then the Supriyo, of course, we are moving ahead. As you said, the other sectors. In that note, society take little time. That one thing that I have also learned in the journey, that it will not happen overnight. One thing I strongly believe, again, it's a complete my opinion, that there are very less people in this world. They will wake up in the morning and they will say, I am going to be homophobic today. So the major problem, what I realize, that is unawareness. So I keep saying this, that people are scared of ghost because they never seen a ghost. People are scared of darkness because we can't see anything at the dark. The moment we'll see things in the dark, we'll not be scared of darkness. So the whole point here is unawareness, the lack of dialogues, the lack of conversations, the lack of representations. So I think the representation is more if I compare 10 years back to today. As we already said, that we are the dinner table conversation. We are there. So I think that is a very positive move. Of course, it's a slow move. Of course, I agree, and I am disappointed, but it's a very firm moving forward. Of course, the joint bank account, and there is depends on the Supriyo judgment. There are other cases happening in Delhi High Court is hearing a case on caregiving rights. I think Bombay, there is a case happening related to taxation. So things are moving. I mean, of course, not in a light speed, not in a speed that we are expected to, but but it is happening, right? So I can see the next generation lawyers, the students, they're so receptive, they're aware what is happening.
Hope that everybody watching the video, whenever they watch the video from whichever part of the world, they learn something new. So yeah, if you have any parting words, Supriyo, you may share those before we close.
I think we had a great conversation. Thank you so much for having me here, especially when it's a Valentine Day. And I think we definitely put little light to the areas that I think people should focus on. So thank you so much for having me here, and I think looking forward for many conversations.
Thank you so much, Supriyo.